Hey everyone, this is Give Live, and we are here with some special guests. Thanks everybody for being here already. Give Live, if you don't know, is a monthly webinar where we talk about all things related to WordPress and nonprofits, and it's free. It's on Facebook now. We used to be on YouTube, but now we're on Facebook, and we're trying it out. We think it's a good system so far. And the best thing about it is all it requires is a Facebook login. Show up, go to facebook.com/WPGive, and you'll find our page. And there you'll see a whole bunch of channels and videos. And we try to always promote them in advance. And you just show up, and then you get to ask us questions and learn stuff all along the way. Chris Mitchell says hello. Thanks for being here, Chris. Today, in particular, we're going to be talking specifically about Gutenberg. It's a big new thing coming to WordPress, and we have some special guests that we're going to introduce right now. One of them is Joe Casabona. He's having a little bit of trouble. We're going to kick him off and have him come back on again in just a second. But our other special guest is Zach. Can you introduce yourself, buddy?
Howdy, folks. Zach Gordon here. Been, WordPress educator doing some Gutenberg content. Excited to be on here with you chatting. Hi, everyone.
Hey, thanks for being here. Zach does some really great work for JavaScript for WP. Check him out on javascriptforwp.com. And he and Joe together have been doing some great work with Gutenberg on a Gutenberg Q&A. And I am bringing Joe back on right now.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that.
Let's see. Here we go. Now he's coming for sure. There we go. Hey, Joe.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. Literally nothing different happens for me when you say you lost me. Everything goes exactly the same. So I have no indication that I'm gone.
Well, now you're back. So introduce yourself. Yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my name's Joe Casabona. I'm a front-end developer and educator, primarily over at creatorcourses.com. And I have a podcast called How I Built It, where I ask people how they built the thing that they built.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys, so much for being here. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk all about Gutenberg. And these guys are some of the best people to talk to about it because they talk about it all the time, and they are developing on it all the time. And they are going around the country to different WordCamps, being experts in the field. So, on Give Live, we don't mess around. We try to give you guys the best. So we brought them in, Joe and Zach. Thanks, guys. Let's kick it off. Let's talk about Gutenberg. First off, there's a lot of people here who most likely know little to maybe nothing about Gutenberg, and that's totally understandable. It's not like there's big billboards out there talking about Gutenberg or anything. You have to kind of be a little bit in the know to know that this is coming. So it's possible it'll come out, and a lot of people will be surprised. But we want to avoid that with this session right here. So I'd love to hear you guys kind of like encapsulate what is Gutenberg? How do you answer that question? Joe, what do you think?
Gutenberg is the change that's coming to the WordPress editor, right? So right now, the WordPress editor is basically a big text box that looks a lot like Microsoft Word. Gutenberg changes that to a more modular approach where you break up your content into different blocks that allow you to have more robust and flexible content layouts.
Nice. I agree. Zach, what's your take on it? How do you describe Gutenberg to somebody who's never heard of it?
Yeah. Hi, Gutenberg is the new drag and drop page builder for WordPress. Something like that in a sentence, and everything Joe said, and I'll just extend it by saying that if you are just learning about it now, what you're going to see rolling out and probably what we'll talk about is only one of several parts of the real Gutenberg project. So in the big picture, it's a complete overhaul of how you edit, create content in WordPress, trying to make it more drag and drop, look how you want it to, easier, intuitive. And that's really the overall direction of what we're going to see coming with not just the first rollout of the editor, but with the customizer, themes, more, all of that.
That's a really good point. Another way that some people talk about it too is just simply that it's WordPress 5.0. Some people have just said, essentially there's going to be a big update that comes to your admin experience, and you're going to be like, oh, an update, boom, update. But then you'll notice that all your posts and pages change a lot in a new way. And so that upgrade, that new release in WordPress 5.0 is going to be significant. And it's going to maybe shock you if you didn't know it was coming. So part of what we'll talk about today is how to prepare for that in advance. In the WordPress space in general is the question, why? A lot of folks in marketing and in business development, they say start with why. And a lot of different pundits and Matt Mullenweg himself gave kind of why Gutenberg type of descriptions. But I'd love to hear you guys' perspective on why does WordPress need Gutenberg at all?
Yeah, well, I would say, I think Matt Mullenweg probably put it best. The WordPress editor is 15 years old. Contrast that with something like Squarespace or Wix, or even plugins in the WordPress space that are page builders. And the editor experience, the native WordPress editor experience, looks pretty dated. So I think it's definitely time for a refresh. And as people are building out more complicated content, I think that's something that WordPress should be able to support. And Gutenberg certainly does the job.
Nice. Zach, what's your take?
It comes back to the democratization of publishing too, right? Like it just is going to make everything easier. And in one way you could say it's not worth it because we have page builders, but if you come to WordPress as a solution out of the box and you don't know about Divi and Beaver Builder and Elementor and all these other opportunities that make it really easy, then it can be really hard. You ever tried to build columns with short codes? That's not a fun experience. So I think that we're getting it in the platform means that the platform as a whole wants to stay relevant and not just be some baseline thing that you strap these really heavy plugins onto in order to get what you see in every other online solution that is kind of the out of the box, like slick Squarespacey type thing.
Totally. Yeah.
Even MailChimp and email builders are, further along. And that's kind of the experience folks will see. I like to associate it with. Yeah,
for sure. There's always that question, like we have plugins that do this. So why does WordPress core have to do it? And I think Joe mentioned this, but Matt essentially said, yeah, but if you add up all the users of all of the page builders out there, they come up to maybe, tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 users. And WordPress has, most likely tens of millions of users. So bringing that to the masses, like you said, democratizing publishing is a big deal. Plus, another thing that gets mentioned a lot is just that the publishing space has changed. If you want to publish in an online format nowadays, it's not just a whole bunch of paragraphs and some images. Like you're just not going to publish that kind of stuff anymore. It really needs to be a lot more immersive and have a better layout experience overall. So good stuff, guys. Hey, gang, everybody who's paying attention and watching right now, if you have questions at all, we are here also to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to chime in on the comment section, and I'll be watching that carefully. And we can highlight those up on the screen here and answer those questions on the spot. So feel free, and we'll be watching for those. And at the very end, we'll have a dedicated time for Q&A as well. But I'm hoping and expecting that folks are here with some questions. So what I want to do right now is a little fun in the sense of trying to put together a little online demo super quick. Everybody loves online demos because they are visual and have lots of potential for disaster. So I have a little setup here where I just updated the latest plugin deactivated. I write it down here, Gutenberg. I just got it to the latest version, and I'm just kind of walk through, and we can talk through it together. And you guys can tell me what you think your favorite things are and things like that. But let's just take a look at what it looks like. So this is every time you install WordPress, you get this Hello World post. And right now, because Gutenberg is a plugin and not built into core, it has a couple different options here. So when you hover over here, you'll see Classic Editor. So if I want to just keep editing these posts the way I always have, I can just click on that. But the default edit now is Gutenberg. So as long as you have Gutenberg activated. So let's hit that and see how it looks.
As we're loading, I'll just throw out and say that when you install Gutenberg or activate it and you already have content on your site, what we're going to see by default here is what's called a classic editor block, which should look something similar to what you have experienced before, but you could break that out into other blocks. They may be getting ahead. Sorry, just filling up a page load time here.
No worries. I appreciate it. That was you'll definitely get a check in the mail for that. So this is new to me. I haven't noticed this before, but it looks like they've added some tips now when you first get in there. I haven't seen that before. Have you guys seen that?
As of 3.1, I think, right? So not the most recent release, but the one before that, they added a little walkthrough, some tooltips, and they also added an API. So for the developers out there, you'll be able to tap into that as well.
Yeah,
nice.
Really excited about that.
That's cool. Definitely a very user-focused feature for sure. But I will say, like, me being who I am, like as soon as the screen loaded, my temptation was just to be like X.
Oh yeah, I was like trying to reach onto the screen. Close it.
Well, since it's here and it's a feature, let's see what's next. So this is welcome to the world of blocks. I feel like they need like a little heading on the tooltip, but let's see what's next. Okay, then we go up here. You'll find more settings for your page and blocks in the sidebar. Click settings to open it. It's already open in this case, but yeah, okay. Next tip, not bad. Click preview to load a preview of this page to make sure you're happy with your blocks. The preview, I like the preview feature of Gutenberg a lot better than the current experience. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you get closer to, that WYSIWYG or that what you see is what you get experience. Just in general, I think it's a lot closer to just activate somebody's voice activated device. I think it gives users a more accurate experience to what they're actually going to see when they hit the publish button.
Yep, for sure. And that's, I think, what's super crucial that's often been missing, especially like Zach mentioned earlier, trying to do columns with short codes. It's like, all right, I put a bunch of code into my text editor. I have no idea what that's going to look like. And then when you do see what it looks like, you're kind of like, well, why does it look like that? I have no idea, Mm-hmm. So next tip, what do we got? Oh, looks like we're done with the tips. Oh, that's a little issue that they got to address, but cool. Yeah, and here we go. Just like Zach said, here this is the classic block, which is essentially a WYSIWYG editor. I can click right into it, and it really just looks like, the traditional WordPress tiny MCE right there a little bit, right?
It does, and that's really what it's meant to do. And if before we go any further, can you hover on the top right corner? There's that little 3-dot menu drop down.
This one?
I just want to point out there. I don't know if this one has it. Does that have the convert to blocks?
Yes.
Yeah, so when you originally have content in this, I'll just throw this out because it may be a lot of people's case. If you want to automatically go from this one big content area to one that has a bunch of what we're going to see are the building blocks in Gutenberg, you could do that and it'll automatically parse all your stuff and spit it out, and that could be a nice head start. I didn't realize that for a long time, and I kept trying to copy and paste parts of old content, and then I realized they just had it built in. So save yourself some time when you're experimenting and that little feature there.
Absolutely.
On that same token, if you have a ton of content and you're just like, you want to try the plugin out, you don't have to worry about Gutenberg just wholesale changing all of your content right out of the box. It's like a 3-step process to change your content. You have to open it in the editor. You have to see that it is there in the classic editor, and then you have to convert it to blocks and save the page.
Nice. We have a couple questions here. I see one from Jake Hawks. Jake has a question about theming, and Jake, we are going to talk about that one towards the end for sure. So I'm going to come back to that. We have another question from Chris Ozianak. I'm going to put that up on the screen. He says, what positive impact do you think Gutenberg will have on WP front-end performance? What do you guys think of that?
That's a really good question. So from what I can tell, right, Gutenberg completely React driven on the admin side. But when it spits the stuff out on the front end, it's spitting out pretty much HTML. You're going to completely control that experience, right? So I don't know that it will impact it either positively or negatively. I think the way that front end performance happens today in WordPress will be the same when 5.0 comes out. But I mean, Zach, I will deflect to you as you're the back end guy here.
Yeah, so I mean, the short answer is, yeah, it doesn't change too much because most blocks are saving HTML content, spitting that out. If you want something dynamic that would have JavaScript or image performance, all that would have to kind of be done independently. The one small thing that maybe comes to mind is they are loading React and WordPress core now. So there's kind of a little workaround that you could do. It's not currently loading everywhere. It's just in the admin area, but you can get it to load on the front end. So when they added jQuery quite a while ago, and you didn't have multiple versions of jQuery running on the same page because they just import it from WordPress now, which is like default. It may become that way with React, but it's not like we have people now writing short codes that have like multiple React instances loading on the page. So I don't know that really affects it. I think by and large, you're going to do the same things for performance you saw about before and not really see too much of a difference there.
Good points, guys. Let's get back into this demo a little bit. So we have our block, and we can just keep typing and editing. When it's in the classic one, it basically works just like you expect with most things. But what I've always liked about the native Gutenberg experience is, for example, typically if you start a brand new post, you're going to have basically an empty block here first. And if I just say I wanted to start with paragraphs right here, the experience here you could see is basically more or less seamless and like distraction-free, more or less. And what I like is I can just start typing, and I don't know what to type, so I'm just going to say I just start typing. And if I want to do another paragraph, I just hit enter, just like normal, and it looks great. But then if you look closer, it's actually a new block. We actually created a new block right now. And I kind of like that. What do you guys think about the writing experience of the native blocks?
I really like that it kind of gets out of the way if you just want to write. My favorite thing about the paragraph block is the drop cap, because I've always liked the drop cap, and I never knew like an easy way to do it. I was very close to writing a plugin that would do it. Just like grab the first paragraph and create the drop cap, because there's no like CSS that does it, but it's nice to see it built into Gutenberg, so I don't have to do that now.
Yeah, I think I kind of have mixed feelings, because when I type to see a bunch of different blocks being created, actually creates like a micro annoyance for me. And on the flip side of that, I'll just mention that you should be able to select multiple blocks, and it's not too hard. It's not the most refined process yet. I think it'll get smoother as it gets close to being done, but that's something that could be helpful. But sometimes I found it a little bit like, just give me a paragraph block and let me write in that and not be disturbed. But honestly, these are like minor details. For the most part, it's pretty cool, and that you can move things around pretty easily is nice. And even convert between, like I could go back to a paragraph block and select just that paragraph in the top left corner and convert it to a quote block, right? So now as I'm editing my article, I could just easily convert content, and that's kind of cool.
And that's really one of the big benefits of Gutenberg, right? Is like you have this long form content and you're like, well, this paragraph might be better 2 paragraphs up, and now you don't have to copy and paste and move. You can just drag that paragraph right in between the 2 that you want to put it in, which is really neat.
I've removed a section of a blog post to another part, right? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
This is a new feature they just came out with. Like, I think in this release, multiple styles for the same block. Like, I think that's pretty legit.
This is going to be huge, and not to get ahead of the game with theming, but I really like this feature, and you're going to be able to create a theme that has your own kind of different styles that get added in, and it's all just kind of CSS transitions behind the scenes, but that interface for it is real nice that they added.
Nice. One thing that, a lot of folks don't really talk about too much is Markdown support, or these shortcode type things as well. Like, for example, if I want a heading, I just type in £2 and it becomes a heading. I like that personally, as somebody who likes to not get my hands off the keyboard ever. And the shortcuts with the slash commands, essentially, I like that a lot too. What do you guys think about those things?
I don't want to keep talking over. I think we should all move towards writing more in this Markdown format. Honestly, like the average WordPress user, if they were to switch to just doing Shift # for a heading, would actually speed up the process of writing quite a bit and move us more towards. Not that Markdown is an international format, but it is kind of a simplified web format, and I do like it. So I think that that's really cool. And if we can, Joe, maybe this is your camp a bit, but like informing some of the users about these things that are just kind of, oh, this is a cool new feature, and maybe not even need to realize how big it is. But I really like that. And I write a lot of stuff in Markdown too, so it's handy. WordPress has picked it up for a while, but now it's auto-built into blocks.
Nice.
Yeah, as a guy who writes a lot of HTML, I love Markdown because it's essentially a stripped-down version of HTML, right? I've always had a strong opinion that, like, people who never write HTML, like, Markdown is still a learning curve for them. But the fact that Gutenberg, like, you can just take Markdown and paste it as Markdown into the editor, and it'll automatically convert it to blocks, which is super cool because I do most of my writing in an app called Ulysses, which is totally Markdown driven. And now, instead of maybe just, I could publish directly to WordPress, or I could copy and paste parts of it into different posts or pages, which is, as a developer, I've liked that WordPress has really supported Markdown.
Nice. Taylor is on here. She's on our staff. She's one of our content writers. She leads a lot of the stuff that we do here at Give, and she says, as a writer, I love the experience of writing with the native Gutenberg blocks. It's super easy. It's been hard for me to go back to the classic editor since trying it out. Joe, what do you think about that? Like, from content creator perspective, like is Gutenberg seems to be made specifically for people like Taylor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the conversations that both Zach and I have had, I think Zach would agree with me, right, that developers are the ones who are nervous and upset and worried about upgrading, but the content editors are stoked because, like, I just made a new page where I had to make a table, and I was like, so I have to write out the HTML for the table, and paste it into the text code version, right, of the editor. With Gutenberg, there's a table block, right? So I wouldn't have had to do that, right? We're seeing that on the screen right now. Not that I don't know how to write an HTML table, but, like, I'd rather spend my time doing something else. So, from a content creation standpoint, Gutenberg is just fantastic. We have tables and columns and big cover images and stuff like that. It's just going to make the content writing experience and the content consuming experience a lot better.
Nice. Tables are always a pain in content for sure. That always bothers me. And this is definitely an improvement, but there's nothing that's ever going to stop tables from being a pain. But, cool. Do you guys have any blocks that you think are really awesome? Other blocks that we can highlight here that are native to Gutenberg?
One thing I think we should Okay, we can go into specific blocks, maybe jumping ahead, but I love shareable blocks or like repeatable, reusable blocks. So maybe you could show them how to do that, because what's really common is you have a call out or something that you want to go in a bunch of different places, or you have a little teaser, or maybe you have something that's just formatted how you want it and you just want to copy that and then completely edit all of how it looks. And there are a few different types of ways you can do this. Joe, you know this a bit more intimately, but this is one of my favorite features.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if we go back to that table, right? If it's a pricing table that I want to use on more than one page, now I either have to copy the HTML or do some other thing. But with the shareable block, I right click, I make it shareable, I name it, and now it's available in my list of blocks. If I ever need to change it, I change it once and it changes everywhere, right? Or if I like the format, like Zach said, I can detach that new block, which means just like separate it from the shareable block. And now I can have something in the right format, but change the content of it. I think that, especially for people in the enterprise, I think that's going to make creating consistent layouts for them a lot easier.
Awesome. Yeah, so to make this crystal clear for everybody, this is a shared block now that we created from up above. And so if I go up here and I select it, and let's see, I want to change something about it. Edit, boom. And then, oh no, that's not right.
So if you want to change the content of the block, I think that you should be able to. Is there the screen is very small for me, but is there something that says detach current block or decouple? Is it decouple now?
No, it's not decouple. I think it's detach.
Okay.
I detached one earlier, but this is like the original one. Oops, there we go. Let's see. That's just changing the name. But if I want to change the actual appearance of the block, it looks like I have to convert to a regular block. Yeah, that's what I have to do. I have to convert to a regular block and then change it and then save it again. Let's see. Now convert back. I don't know. I used to play with this a lot too, and it looks like this functionality has changed a bit.
Yeah, it might be something that they changed because
Exactly.
yeah, I have a dedicated module for this in my course, where you can. I wonder if it's just because it's the first block. If you make copies of it and if it's noted as a copy, you can detach it.
Let's see. So I made one out of the pricing table here, and now if I go down and create a new pricing table, this is a really sweet feature. I like it. But now I want to change all my pricing tables everywhere. So I guess I can just, it's not letting me click into it. It's like as soon as a shared block is saved, it's like not available anymore for editing. That might be a change.
Yeah.
It might be that you have to duplicate it and then you could unhook the next one because that becomes the default. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played with them too much. I just know that it's a feature that is pretty cool if it works.
When it works.
I'm assuming it works. Yes.
Yeah.
I suspect something probably changed, and it's time to update the course, I guess.
That's the thing with doing courses around a moving target, right?
Yep.
Well, let's talk about a couple blocks. Do you guys have some blocks that you think are really awesome?
Well, I mentioned the columns block, and I just in general like that one because it allows for us to create, truly flexible layouts, I think. Not that it's a page builder, but we can do some really nice things with the columns block. We can create testimonials, or we can have the old-timey newspaper format, right? Where we have tiny columns with sentences or whatever, or create a grid or something like that. And then I'll just mention the gallery one too, because I think that looks like pretty dope. You could just like drag, like let's say 5 images onto the editor and automatically creates a gallery for you. Way better than the way things work right now.
Yep. I really love the gallery block, especially the way they do handle columns here. I can go 4-column, 3-column. It still keeps it all symmetrical. 2 columns. Now we got that perfect square. And then, of course, the plain old boring 1-column does exactly what it's supposed to do. So I like that. I like the gallery one a lot. Yeah, and the columns one is powerful, but columns are another thing that I think are always difficult to master. So.
Yeah, the columns is still being evolved. I'm a huge fan of the spacer one. They added that in at some point, and I found that if I'm really actually trying to use Gutenberg to design, I got to have the spacer in all over the place, and I just drag it up and down and kind of move stuff, and then I get the nice white balance I'm looking for, and I have a feeling that that one's going to be pretty common. Or maybe they'll build in like margins into things. I don't know if that might evolve, but the spacer one for sure is a fave of mine.
Nice. Interesting. Yep. I can see that being useful for sure.
Yeah, right.
The page block, the page break block is also very cool. That's a technique that I hate when I'm reading something, but now you can easily break blog posts up into multiple pages. And so there's no like fancy coding needed for that. You just drop the page break block in and it does it automatically, pagination and everything.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple questions here. Let's see. Scott Lewis is here. It looks like Gutenberg puts a lot of comments into the HTML now. If I look at a few simple paragraphs in the code editor view, every one of them is wrapped in these HTML comments. Zach, I have talked a lot about this one, and I've asked a lot of people different questions about it. It is like from a code, if you're looking at the code, it feels so obnoxious. But I'd love to hear your take on it.
All right. So this is a really difficult problem. And this is only stirring the waters. But when you think about it, what other alternatives are there besides coming up with a representation of our data and reference points to it being stored? A lot of this has to do with we're doing a complete overhaul of how Gutenberg is edited and accessed, but we're not doing a complete overhaul of how data is stored. So we're not getting block records in the MySQL database that we can map reference points to. So we need some way of being able to identify what are blocks and what are not. And I mean, I'd rather have this than everything wrapped in divs, like what a lot of page builders do. And I do believe that down the road for WordPress to stay relevant 10, 20 years, like, I don't know, maybe we'll move to the blockchain. Like, who knows what we're going to be doing in data storage, but it really comes down to, we need a more flexible way to store it to avoid that. But then your content is going to become reference markers. So you're eventually, if you want to get into super abstracted data, like you're not going to have raw HTML saved without any reference. So there are only so many ways to do this. And this was something I originally kicked, and I was like, this is stupid, right? But then if you go and you learn how attributes work and the whole data mapping process that they built, I think it's clever as get out now that I've actually considered other options and how it could have gone down without doing the whole database rewrite. And then we never would have got anything done. So that's my 2 cents on it. But yes, you are going to see them. Don't go in and start removing them, okay? That's going to jack up your content a little bit. And I mean, I don't think anybody can make a performance argument against it, but you can maybe say like, oh, it's not semantically great, but I don't know, commenting your markup isn't a bad thing either. So, but yeah, that's why you're seeing it, and that's what's going on there.
Nice.
I also just want to point out, so yeah, like Zach said, like the other way would require an entire database redesign, and then upgrading would be a complete disaster, right? Because then all of the content would break. But the second point, the extra markup that's sent to every visitor's browser, this was something I looked into because I was concerned about this too, right? I mean, like a bunch of HTML comments isn't going to like completely blow out the size of the page, but it's still annoying. Those comments actually get stripped out before they are sent to the user's browser. So those
I
comments,
forgot about that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, those comments are strictly for React and the admin to know what is and is not a block, or what kind of block something is.
Nice. Yep. Good stuff, guys. Another comment, another question from another TeamGive member, Michelle. Michelle's excellent. If you guys are customers of ours, you'll most likely deal with Michelle, and she's amazing. As meetup leaders, what is the best way to prepare our user groups, especially novice users, to understand and get used to Gutenberg before the panic sets in if we don't try to help them now? Classes, demos, give live sessions, Gutenberg Q&As. What are all the options, guys?
Well, Zach, I should let you say what you know I'm going to say, because I don't want to shame myself promoting.
Jump in there. It's all yours. Go get it, buddy.
Michelle, that was a total softball. We appreciate it.
So demos and meetups are really good. And there's a ton of really great content out there. Part of the reason that Zach and I are here is because we have courses on how to do this. I have an introduction to Gutenberg course. If you go to casabona.org/Gutenberg, it'll bring you to a landing page that'll have information about it. And that is a course that's focused on training the trainer as well as training the clients. So of course, that's what I'm going to recommend. I love teaching, and I think that my course is very good. And it's getting updated very soon.
With that shared blocks issue, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Zach.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, great question. If you're in a position where you're attending a meetup group and stuff like that, you're already going to be more plugged in, and that is helping serve the community somewhat. You kind of have a responsibility. I'd come up with a PSA of sorts that is a generic page you could send people to that you have of resources, in-depth things. And then I think you really need to start mentioning it at the beginning. Come up with a 1 to 2 minute demo video like the wonderful folks here have, or maybe even that's something that you could reuse so that you're playing it and people can see that. And from there, I think having some, I know a lot of groups do like support sessions, right, where everybody could just bring in their sites and try converting them over, playing around with them, showing people what staging is if they don't know that. And yeah, there's informing them about it. And Joe mentioned a bunch of great things on that and doing talks around that, but it's really going to be giving people the opportunity to play with it that I think is really big, and you could bring a good value to, especially if you have people there that can help support it.
Yep, it's worth all of those things because it is big change, and it will affect sites in a significant way. But I do think it needs to be said really clearly that once you update WordPress 5.0, that yes, Gutenberg is your default editor. And if you go into your existing content, you're going to see your old content with Gutenberg, but you haven't saved that content yet. And so actually nothing on the front end is going to change there. Not like if you update and you have Gutenberg there, it's not like you're going to lose any content. It's all still in the database. It's all presented in the front end exactly like it always has been. Nothing is going to change there. It only starts to change when you start to edit that existing content with Gutenberg and then hit save. That's when things start to change. So we got another good question here from Jake. I can say for the editor, I pushed Gutenberg to posts on a few sites, and there was literally no training. I turned it on, converted the existing posts, and offered up my help if needed. No request has ever been made. I followed back up, and they love it. I mean, that's the ideal, right? You know, that's what's supposed to happen. Gutenberg be shipped? When is everybody going to be able to enjoy this, guys?
Rumor has it. So if you talk to us like last month, it would have been April, right? April of 2018. But rumor has it that Gutenberg is going to go through pretty rigorous testing this month into next month, and we could see WordPress 5.0 drop as early as August. That is what was passed down from the state, or well, I guess it wasn't the state of the word, it was just the keynote at WordCamp EU.
Yep. Zach, additional comments?
No, I'd go to, I believe it's givewp.com/Gutenberg-roadmap and check out that article there for some great details. Yeah, it's been laid out. It's coming, and we're going to see it. If you're a .com user, you may see it in your admin, depending on how you're using it before then. But yeah, coming along. And that story was great. It should just work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, it really should.
Unless you've changed WordPress in some way, then
yeah. I mean, generally speaking, like that's always the thing, and that leads us straight into our next question, which is, can I keep using my favorite plugin or my favorite theme with Gutenberg? And really, that's the big question, honestly. What's your guys' take on that question, Joe?
Yeah, that really comes down to the plugin or theme developer, I think. Again, like for themes, Gutenberg doesn't add really its own styles. For the columns, it adds just a tiny bit of CSS for Flexbox as of 3.2. But it's really up to the themes to add the theme support, to add the styles to support the new blocks. Any of the regular HTML markup you're using will still function as expected, though. With plugins, it's a little bit different, right? If you're using a custom post type, but it doesn't have like the REST API endpoint turned on in its definition, then you're not going to see the Gutenberg editor. And I'm sure like Zach could speak more to this, but my answer is always it depends. If you have a website or a plugin that you completely rely on, that your website completely relies on, reach out to the developer and ask them.
Yep. Good one. Zach?
Yeah, my thought is this. You're probably, for the short term, going to keep building and working with your sites the way you do. If you have a CMB2 and an ACF configuration that you like, you'll keep on using that, and you don't really need to be in Gutenberg because you have your locked-in solution. I think in some instances, opening up like blog posts and having it there, whereas the rest of the site is very like custom field driven, is going to be common. If you're a Divi or Beaver Builder user or anything like that, you're going to keep being a user because it's going to take default Gutenberg a while. You saw the columns. It's not like it is in any of the other page builders. So keep doing that. And it's just what we're doing is we're bringing the default WordPress experience up to what a lot of these other things have added. So we'll get there, but out of the box, I don't think everybody doesn't need to just go shift into doing it this way any more than they had to force everything into the classical editor before. But we're leveling up the game.
Yep. Ken Kramer says WordCamp sites are already using Gutenberg. That's absolutely true. And anybody who's a WordCamp organizer for this past calendar year has had to work with Gutenberg, whether they like it or not. And from what I've heard from WordCamp organizers, they enjoy it. And there are actually a lot of folks who are doing this thing they call the Gutenberg Challenge. And it's essentially trying to write a certain amount of posts on their personal websites with Gutenberg in order to keep testing it.
Yay, cool.
Yeah. It's a cool thing. So I think Aaron Jorbin was one of the ones really pushing that. So he has a nice blog post about the Gutenberg Challenge. So that's something worth looking up. But another thing you mentioned, Zach, I think is really important. Scott Lewis is bringing up a point here about that, whether you're going to accept Gutenberg or not depends a lot on whether or not you are using a page builder already. And that's one thing that the Gutenberg development team worked really hard right from the beginning to reach out to the page building authors and like Beaver Builder in particular, Elementor and whatnot. And they worked with them hand in hand to make sure that Gutenberg doesn't just like squash those products completely. They wanted to make sure that there was an option to toggle between, well, I'm a Beaver Builder. It's kind of like that Mac and PC thing. I'm a PC. I'm a Beaver Builder. Don't turn me off. So you have that ability to toggle and make sure that you have your builder of choice once Gutenberg is out. One more thought there. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I can definitely vouch for Beaver Builder. Like, you can use Beaver Builder with Gutenberg today and nothing happens. But, I would say that you're probably not using a page builder on every single page and every single blog post, right? I love Beaver Builder. I use it mostly for landing pages or heavy information pages. And then I would use Gutenberg for the blog posts. So it's nice that at least those two live together and work together nicely.
Yep. Nice. Everybody who's watching right now, we would love for your questions to come in. This is question time right now. We hit the 45-minute mark, and we'd love to answer any of your remaining questions. But I am going to serve up this section with a kind of a softball over to Zach. Zach, I'd love to hear your take on Gutenberg and custom post types. What do you think about that, the potential going on there?
Oh, God. Okay. So this is something I've delved into a lot, because one of the assumptions I had early on, with no technical real confidence, or I wasn't sure. So I tried to see how easy would it be to auto convert an ACF setup into Gutenberg and have it intelligently figure out what it is and go. And Joe and I did some work for WordPress VIP. VIPgutenberg.com has a free course on some of this stuff. And it was harder than I thought because of the data architecture and reverse engineering custom fields and your intentions and plopping that in. So if you are going to be doing that, you can. So sorry if you're processing millions of posts through that, but it's possible. Now, we have another approach, which is if we start from scratch now, thinking forward how to do this, we have block templates, which are a way in our PHP, so we could do this for our theme or for a plugin and say, hey, every time somebody adds a new custom post type, I want you to show this default layout, put an image block here, a heading block here, and you could even lock it down. So in that sense, we kind of have a little bit of an ACFE custom fields type scenario. Now, so we could do all of that, and it all is the content. So in the past, every single custom field was a custom field. Nothing was saved as the content, right? So what's nice now is going forward, we can really think, does this need to be metadata? Does it actually need to live in a separate record in a database and be queried and searchable independently of the content, and therefore take up an extra resource to grab it? Or have we just been trying to hack a page layout how we wanted to for this time, and now we have it out of the box? So going forward, I don't know that there are too many situations where you would need to use ACF, except I really thought the plugin ecosystem was going to be more mature at this point. If I wasn't teaching, I'd be building crazy, oh man, I hope I don't offend anybody, but I'll just say ACF competitions for Gutenberg. The only one that's out there was built by Riyadh, who's a core developer who's just trying to do it as a demo and to show off. But I think that is the direction, and it makes more sense content-wise. So this is something you got me a little revved up talking about, and I have more thoughts that people are trying to work through it. But in general, you could kind of stay where you are. You can convert. I don't know that I'd bother, but forward thinking, the block templates are pretty cool and probably going to change how we look at all this. Oh, the last thing I forgot to mention was any block, you could go in and create a custom block so that it looks like a normal block, but it saves as metadata. So if you do need that custom field for searchability or indexing or something like that, then you can.
Nice. Cool. Got a question here from Jake Hawks. What about WordPress native CPT's translation? Any easier or same difficulties?
Dude, can you just build an interface for custom post types? Would that be so hard? Now that you have React, can I put in a request? I'm with you, Jake. No difference. But as Joe mentioned, you have to make sure that you have REST API enabled. Otherwise, Gutenberg will not work because it's 100% REST API enabled. So if you're using custom post types UI or one of those popular plugins, they all have a feature that says enable in the REST API. But that does then mean that content is then visible publicly on the front end of your site. So, or via your API, which you may or may not want. But that's the only difference, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't know, Joe, do you have the thoughts?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. If you have a directory custom post type, just make sure that you have the REST API enabled, right? Assuming that, right, like Zach said, you have front end templates to support this. If it's something internally used that you wouldn't use Gutenberg for anyway, then it's at your if you're making custom post types, it's at your discretion.
Yep. Nice. Cool, guys. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being with us today. This was an excellent conversation. I Cannot believe we survived the live demo. That was fun.
You're great with that. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for the comments and the questions and for being here. Definitely make sure that you check out Gutenberg.courses /about us. That is where you can always get some more Gutenberg information from Zach and Joe together. I'm looking for that link again right now. Where did that go? Right here.
Ask us.
Ask us. Exactly. And they have a schedule that they just released, I think yesterday or today, for the next couple months of the type of events that they'll be holding. What's your next event, guys?
Yeah, we're going
July 27th, right? Yeah, Friday, July 27th.
Around the time of when we're going to see that little nag come into Gutenberg. So it should be interesting times. Yeah.
I saw a preview of that nag. It's not so little. But yeah, so everybody, thank you guys so much. Next month, look around the second week of August. We'll be doing our next Give Live session. And the subject is going to be a surprise because I got to figure out what it is. I don't know yet, but we will have it next month. And actually next month, I'm going to be in Germany, actually. So the timing of when we're going to do that, it might be a little bit interesting. And maybe I'll figure out some way to do something very festive in German during the Give Live session. So, but thanks again so much, guys. Really appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks again so much, man. If I could throw out, if anybody's listened so far, we did have a little surprise for folks watching. We're doing a soft launch of our new Gutenberg theme development course. So we haven't announced this yet, but if you go to gutenberg.courses/theming, check out that. And we have some of the content already available for you to get a sneak peek early sale at. So
nice.
We'll cover a lot of these things like block templates and stuff that we've talked about. So want to share that out with the Give fam there.
Nice. Let's get that up on the screen. Gutenberg courses
/theming.
Yep.
Gutenberg.courses. Sorry, I'm typing this out. Slack theme. Do you spell theming with E-I-N-G or?
I just do THEMING.
Yeah, it's like theming.
Theming, yeah.
Yeah,
Our theming course. That doesn't sound.
This conversation internally as well, and it's like, well, is that it? Did I do it right?
That's it.
Nice.
Yeah. So a little
good.
pre-sale special there. Hope folks enjoy.
Awesome. Everybody check it out. Head over there right away. And thanks so much for being on the show, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye, thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.